countries like Dubai, Libya, Qatar, Jeddah, Maldives, etc. As it pertains to certifications, which enables us to export to the international market, we have organic farming certificates, whereby organic farming, where money lies. If we will come to interaction for today's forums, we shall focus on the critical areas where we can empower our farmers to get more money. We also have organic and global gap certifications. We have social certification like GRAPS, SMETA, and also we have the fair trade and the BRC, which are mandatory if you are having perennial crops for export. Thank you very much, Boniface. Mr. Undersecretary from South Sudan.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm not going to introduce much of myself, other than just, as he has said, I am the Undersecretary for the Ministry of Investment. In terminology of East Africa, I think you call it Permanent Secretary. I come from a broad range of experience, which is not necessary for now, but I'm here representing an investment opportunities in the Republic of South Sudan, the newest country in the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard Ndunda Mutiso. I'm Kenyan born, farming and doing business investments in Rwanda. So today I'm a Rwandese. So my background mostly, I'm a third generation farmer. My grandfather in 1984 was exporting. I'm sure it looks funny, but he was exporting. So I went through the corporate life, Unilever, GNLD, and government corporates. But my main concern was what Akiwomi said. The farmers will be the next billionaires and trillionaires. Not to focus also on the food security, especially in Africa. So that's what was making me to kind of follow up on how can we change Africa. So my main focus mostly it's on that. And how do we do that? By farming in large scale, for example. And something was said here today which actually captivated me more. India, China, and the like, they were the greatest exporters to Africa. But now it's the other way around. Africa, we have a lot of land. We have a lot of rivers. We have a lot of lakes. So where are we heading? We should be the other way around. We should be the ones now exporting to those countries. So that's why we are here for this purpose. Yeah.
Thank you. So you see we have diverse background, but all within the same horticulture sector. So let me start with our friend from Twiga Foods. A couple of, I think, weeks or months ago, I saw a program on CNN featuring Twiga Foods as one of the companies that has gotten it right in the region. And you have said it, that you are solving the market problem. So just, if it's not company secret, just tell us, what can we learn from the experience of Twiga Foods? What are you doing right that you think others can also borrow from you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be mixing Swahili and English because I'm good in both of those languages.
I'm not sure.
I've lived and worked here. You can hear me?
This is better than that one, so probably.
Testing. Ongeza kidogo.
This seems to be the best, so probably you can borrow this one.
Okay, asante bwana moderator. Nikianzia mahali umewachia, we just left. So who is Twiga Foods? Twiga Foods ni company ambaye imekuweko yapata miaka 6 iliyopita. And the way the company started is that we came across a research details that showed that in this part of the world, an average citizen spends over 50% of their daily earning on food, compared to South Africa, which is 18%, compared to Europe, which is 12%, and some countries like Germany, 80%. So what is making food very expensive then? It is because of the inefficiencies that we have in the system, some of which was covered here under production system and things like that. And so a quick scenario. So I once worked in Arusha town. So when I'm coming from Kenya, there is a production county or province called Kinangop. So in Kinangop, a cabbage, one head of cabbage would be going for even 5 shillings because there is a glut. But by the time I get to Namanga border, I'm about to cross into Tanzania to come to Arusha, the same head of cabbage will be going for 90 shillings. So this is the scenario that exists. So there is food, plenty of food in one part of the world, and there is a shortage of that food in the other part of the world. And that's how then Twiga Foods came into life, to solve the problem of getting this food wherever it is grown at the right price, the right quality, and delivering it to the consumer at an affordable price. So we work with the farmers to reduce cost at farm level by minimizing what you call post-harvest losses. Then we run a very efficient distribution system that then delivers this product from the farmer to the retail outlet at a very low cost. That's how then we manage to deliver this product to the consumer at a very low price. Now, we are the unique thing about Twiga is that we are a digitally led business. We have created a digital marketplace. Tumetengeneza soko kwa mfumo wa digitali. Hivi kwamba wakulima wamewekwa katika mfumo huo, wanaweza kuuza mazao yao kwa njia ya digitali, wanapata malipo yao hapo na hapo kwa njia ya digitali, wanajua bei zetu na bei za sehemu za masoko mengine, wanaweza kufananisha, wakafanya uamuzi, they can make that decision. And then on the other side now, our customers are the retailers, retail outlets. Wao nao wanaweza kuona kupitia mfumo wa digitali, wanaona warehouse yetu yote, wanaona the products we have in the warehouse, the price, the different SKUs or different types, and they can order from the comfort of the house or their shops on the phone, and the product is delivered. Then they pay for it, then they receive their product. So we provide market at fair prices, consistent with the farmer, and we provide convenience to the retail outlet by delivering the product, making it possible for the retail outlet person to order or online. They can pay online. And now one very important thing is that the financial institutions are able to use this transaction data between us and the retailers and the farmers to do what you call credit rating. And so when a vendor, a retail outlet, is paying for goods delivered by Twiga, he has 2 options. He can pay cash via M-Pesa, or he can choose to pay by loan. When he chooses to pay by loan, the system real-time accesses our database and rates this particular customer, whether they are credit worth, and immediately makes the loan available in seconds. You don't even realize that the system has actually done that, and you pay by loan. This is the convenience that we bring retailers. You don't have to move out of your shop, you don't have to go anywhere, but you have access to loans, you have access to goods, and they get delivered. And if the goods don't meet your quality standards, you can make a return, and the goods will be replaced the following day. That's what we do. Now, because of reducing cost in that whole value chain by creating this efficiency and digitalizing the system, I was then going to say that there is actually enough market for all the products that we produce. As I'll be talking later on, I'll be able to demonstrate that we are even currently buying 120 tons of potatoes every single week from Iringa all the way to Nairobi. And these potatoes become competitive even in Nairobi than what is grown there.
Thanks, Nicholas. We will talk more about where you are sourcing your inputs or products from. Maybe let me invite Bernard. Diversity venture, and when I was reading the company profile, you have a concept called zero rejects, and it kind of relates to what also you were saying, Nicholas was saying. So tell us a bit more about and how do you get, are you there already in terms of zero rejects, and how do you get it right?
Okay. I think most of the exporters here, I think how many exporters are here? What percentage do you get on rejects? You take 1 ton to the, let's say, to Taha. I don't know what you call it here, the one for sorting. Then they give you 300. They tell you this is what is exportable. The guys who are dealing with outgrowers, that's what happens. So for us, when I arrived in Rwanda, we used to have a lot of that. And then I realized there's something called GAP, Good Agricultural Practices. It begins from the farm level to the export. So we sat down and came up with a solution. And that comes from this time the soil is being done, testing the soil. What do you need to have for that place? Number one. Number two, as you're doing that, you're training the outgrowers. A farmer will harvest as maybe 2 centimeter or 2 inch, for example, chili. It's supposed to be harvested 4 weeks later. They harvest today. If they don't have the training on how to harvest, what will happen? It becomes a reject. On chemicals you spray, farm management. When you invite pests in the farm, you realize 3/4 of it is coiled. Thrips, they make the chili, for example, to coil. Fruits and the like, fruit flies, all that. You realize the end product, it's a reject. Number three, when you go to the handling, the first 3 to 6 hours of any fresh food, they are very critical because there's the physiological changes of that crop. If from the farm level you don't have cold facilities, I tell you by the time the crop arrives at the airport, it is still already a reject. Then the other thing is also on how do you handle the same percentage. I talked about the harvest, and then the same percentage which maybe now after that you remained with a very few rejects. These rejects are not per se rejects. We have another level whereby we are saying 97% of our crop, it's good. The 3% we normally say, we are not saying we call them rejects, so because we are trying to avoid that reject. So in our business plan we say 90% is for export, 10% is for the local market. We have supermarkets, we have open markets. We already have identified people who are there who picks our crop. We have a repackaging department which sends to the supermarkets. The rest has been exported. Then whatever is we can say it's reject. It's not reject for us. We convert it to compost. The same, you can also use the same crops to use it as pesticide or insecticide in the same farms. So at the end of it all, we don't have what? Rejects. Everything is valuable. So we are there. So, but the main thing, as I said, is the basic thing, capacity building. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bernard. So I think we are getting key messages on how to access export market, how to address issues of quality. Let me invite a colleague from South Sudan, Mr. Undersecretary responsible for investment in the government of South Sudan. From At least from a point of view of Tanzania, we know of South Sudan as a country as a market opportunity. So one it's a country for opportunities, but also I know you do supply. So probably you may wish to just inform us what is in South Sudan. What are the opportunities for investment, for trading, and what are the policy issues that we probably may be aware as part of accelerating a horticulture trade within the region and with the rest of the world?
Thank you, moderator. That is a thesis question. Let me go back a little bit of, give you a bit of a background of what is South Sudan. South Sudan, up to now, we are only 9-year-old country in terms of sovereignty. So we're still very young. But it does not mean that the people are young, because there's a lot of skills that the country had acquired during the war. So we are open for the business. Anything you think about that is available for investment. As a government, we have identified about 11 priorities, things that we need to attract investors. So that's one. Number two, the accessibility to the market. Many of colleagues, they believe that there are some countries in Africa that are landlocked, but I entirely disagree with them, because those countries are not islands, they are connected to the other countries. And we have seen now the whole world is moving to what we call regional economic blocks. So that's why we have got SADC, we have got ECOWAS, we've got EAC. These are measures to dissolve what people perceive to be landlocked. So South Sudan is connected to about 6 countries, and those 6 countries with a population of half of the population of Africa. So there is market for whatever produce you can make in South Sudan. Briefly, I wanted to touch on the policies. As I said, we are a very effective member in East Africa community. Yet we retain our own sovereign policies, sovereign laws when it comes to investment. Investment is a key that we are looking forward to break down the barriers that have been created by depending on oil. South Sudan produces oil in large quantities, and that has created dependency up to 90% of all what the country should do is based on oil. So once anything happened, a glitch happened in the oil market, it affects us severely. And one of them recently, what we're experiencing now, the COVID-19, has severely affected the oil production, oil industries. I wanted to link this with a colleague who has made the last comment about raw materials from Africa being exported to the other part of the world, processed and value added, and then re-exported back to us. I think South Sudan oil is in that vicinity. We produce crude oil, it goes to the international market, and then we buy the finished product. That actually has caused us something which I call laziness, because the money from the oil is like a curse money. It's just like milk. You milk the cow in the evening and the afternoon, and you still get the same milk. So it has not actually allowed us to develop. Up until late, we are now thinking outside the box. And evidence of that is why we are attending such forums, so that we can actually tell the region and the world that there are other potentials in this country. Horticulture is among the importance, because South Sudan, we've got over 30 million hectares of arable land. Only 5% of it has been exploited. So you can imagine the enormous land mass that is available. And all this, it is habited by wild fruits, wild herbs, something that you can never believe that there is a forest of mangoes, forest of bananas, pineapples. And you can name all these. They are wild fruits. There's nothing to do with human. We also have wild coffee trees and wild tea. These need to be domesticated for the purpose of the business. So thereafter, we are now here opening and inviting all the potential investors, be they countries or individual private firm, to come and visit. We are up to, from infrastructure all the way to tourism. Because in tourism, we have a very, very unique ecosystem in our country, where we have got a number of valley and hillage that's surrounding the South Sudan. So it become a basin. What we call the Nile Basin is actually South Sudan, because we've got a number of waters coming all the way. So it is an opportunity for horticulture, agriculture, and wildlife. So we have got good policies. And those policies are actually not made by us. They are enshrined from our constitution. So it is not up to me sitting in the seat to change X, Y invests and Y do not invest here. They are actually supported and rooted in the law. Any of us, we are treated equally, whether you are a national or you are a foreigner. You enjoy the same rights. And in details, I can give when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've had opportunities existing in South Sudan, and one characteristic of an opportunity, it is never lost, but it is taken by someone else. So for us in the room, we've heard of these opportunities. If we want to grab them, let's grab them. Otherwise, some other people will take those opportunities. Boniface, I only want you to first start by addressing one aspect. When you are introducing about more farms, you talked about the international markets that you're already accessing, and you talked about the issues of adherence to standards, issues of certification. How did you get it right, or how do you get it right? How are you ensuring that your products are actually certified and you maintain and retain that certification?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I agree with your question. First and foremost, if you want to export to the EU market, not as focus on the local market, you must have several certifications. For instance, if certain clients will give you an order, he or she will require you, Mr. John, I would like to know how many certifications does your company have? If maybe you mentioned organic certifications, it's where money lies. We have several, I can also mention, we have graphs, we have global graph, and we have graphs that has other substandards, like we normally call social certification. This deals with workers' welfare, farmers' welfare. How do you do motivation? How do you do capacity building? In this scenario, you must have a certain potential sourcing. Mainly, you source from small-scale farmer groups. You source from multi-single farmers like you, Madam CEO. You have your farm. We come and we do internal inspection. We do external inspection. From there, we must do what is called proper training, proper sensitization, expertise, organic farming, and its principles. And if one farmer among the farmer groups has found with what we call interception, the farmer will be sanctioned by the CB. CB stands for Certification Body, and the Certification Body must be ISO 17025 accredited bodies. From there, you must follow all the compliance. The key point, Mr. John, with due respect, you must ensure you comply with all regulations for the EU market. For instance, before you do export, you must, on the farm level, you must have a well-trained, competent personnel, like what we call the TAS, Technical Advisory Services. We have agronomists, we have SP. SP stands for Service Providers. These are the key people who ensure all protocols are ensured in the farm level before the certification body is done. From there,
you must ensure you have what we call dry matter system. Let us focus on avocado. As we know, we have two varieties of avocado. We have ash and also we have carbureted. Both of the two varieties, they have different maturity. We, as small and fresh exporters, we normally have what we call avocado quality meter. This is a machine. When we come here, we have a farmers in Dar es Salaam here. We have farmers in Arusha. We come and do what we call oil, content, and dry matter test. This comes as a result of, for the purpose of the export. From there, we have two kinds of methodology. We have the machine called avocado quality meter, and then also we have microwave methodology. If we partner with you people here in Dar es Salaam, we shall ensure proper training has been done for all farmers, and also we must have mutual contracts with the farmers. From there, we shall also do what we call soil analysis, maximum rainfall analysis tests, potability water tests, and also if the farmers, we can also empower farmers through irrigation. We do what we call irrigation water test. This comes as a result. We as a company, we want to motivate our farmers. At the end of the season, we are supposed to issue what, how can we sustain the farmers? We have capacity building through bonuses. Maybe here we have some farmer groups here. Taha is here. We come on the board. We have some farmers here in Dar es Salaam. When we have these farmers, we shall get them. Maybe let me give a scenario like Taha.
Take a pause. Take a breath. So we hear the key messages. I want to take a pause so that you can also invite other people to ask questions, and then we go into those details. But I get your key message: quality control, capacity building, including motivation, bonuses. I also hear the issues of organic certification, and you make sure you. So please take a pause there. Members we have about 10-15 minutes maximum. So I would like to invite people with questions to the individuals or opinions. Please keep your questions or opinions very brief so that as many people as possible can make some comments. So please, anybody, anyone who would like to, yes? So you spoke in the earlier session. Let me invite Prof. Maulid Mwatawala. I want to see hands so that I can get a feel of how many people. There's a lady at the back there. I'm not sure if you're stretching or you are, okay? Yes, Maulid?
Yes, thank you. I mean, your question to Boniface was about the secret. I mean, the procedures might be very well known. Do soil test, do quality check of 1, 2, 3. These might be very well known, but the secret that the smallholder farmers should get from you and break through the very difficult system of certification, etc. That's what we would like to hear, so that our farmers can also copy from you and move on. And it's the same thing also with the phytosanitary. I know there is a next session about policy, so I should just ask in advance. What are we doing to break through that? Because it seems it's very easy to trade with Europe from Africa than to trade within Africa because of those measures. So these two things, the procedures, yes, are known, but what is the secret to break through those seemingly difficult procedures? Is it capital? Is it education? Why can't we break through despite knowing them? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a few other questions. And as you're responding to his question, he is a Deputy Vice Chancellor of our best agriculture university in Tanzania, probably in the region. So that's a very academic question. There was a hand there was a lady, yes, at the back.
A very good afternoon to everybody. My name is Happiness Alfayo from Arusha. I would like to ask the panelists, what practical assistance do you give to the youth starting out in horticulture sector from your countries? And also, what are the most critical changes that we must make to face the future effectively and make a substantial difference in supporting youth inclusion in horticulture? Thank you.
Thank you. I saw another, yes, a hand here and then there. Yes.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Ali from Taha, Zanzibar. Mine is very small. Just I want to have an assurance. I was very much impressed with a very beautiful profile for Sudan in terms of investment. But I have a question, and I want to know the security of South Sudan. How much attractive for investment? Thank you.
Thank you. Over there. Any other person with, there's a lady at the end. Yeah.
Thank you very much, panelists. My name is Ephraim Jao from Arusha. My question goes to the representative from Southern Sudan. He talked of having some of the agricultural products, but these ones are from the wild. He talked of having the forest pineapples, forest vegetables, I don't know, forest coffee. And my question is, do you have a clear policy of how you are safeguarding this, and do you have you ever thought of methodology of harvesting them so that you create a market for these very useful products that are harvested yet? Thank you.
Thank you. So, panelists, yes, the lady, that will be the last question.
Yeah, my name is Rehema Chambwe. I have a question. I know most of us in Africa have been concentrating in maybe European markets. I wonder if the standards or certification for trading across Africa, are they the same, or has anyone ever thought of having maybe, are the standards the same? And can we be able maybe to penetrate through those markets across Africa instead of concentrating in the European markets? Because I know most of our people, all of them are concentrating in European markets, and we fail to penetrate those markets. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehema. So, panelists, I know, Boniface, you're very eager to respond because you have the microphone. You may wish to start, but brevity will be. So you can start. Just be very brief.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And the practical responses to very academic answers.
Thank you very much. I'm going to answer your question directly as pertains the certification you asked about, the secret, the barrier to trade. This is very sensitive when it comes to certification. First and foremost, we must do what we call proper training for the farmers. Farmers must be united. It is important to have united farmers, they form, and also they must be registered to the social, culture and services in your locality, and you must, the regulator body can come in to do what we call farm inspection, whereby we as an exporter, we must ensure everything is up to date. So there is a lot of money implementations, quality management systems that we call ICS, internal control system. QMS, quality management systems, must also be added. We as an exporter, if we the fault of the farmers themselves to pay the certification, it has a cost. As I can also answer your question very clearly, it has some cost, and the cost is paid with the US dollars, not Kenya shillings or Tanzania shillings. Is being paid through the US currency, whereby it's the matter of the inspector to do inquiry, to pay the certification body, to do the training, to do the payment of the people or the body which will be training for the farmers to comply with the certification. There are other measures which are mandatory if you want to pursue the certification, either organic farming, and I said before I forget, before I finish this forum, focus on organic farming where the money lies. Therefore, it's a matter, if I'm an exporter or the of my company, I must pay all the requirements for the certification body, and it has a cost. We must implement what we call ICS, internal control systems, in your farm, whereby it shows how do you deal with your farmers, who are the testers. You must train because of the maturity. Everything must be audited, so you must sweat on paying the money. From there, if you comply, you will get a lot of money from Mheshimiwa. The money is there when you are being organic. And I am sure if we can have organic farming in other words, 1 minute please with due respect, where farmers are not using any chemicals, no spray, no using any agrofed chemicals. From my colleague from Trigger, it is prohibited. Maybe you are using for conventional produce. For instance, if you are not using those chemicals, you can use what we call organic farming, like using of the approved seedlings which are approved by the certification body and must be having accreditations from the ISO 17 accredited body. So it is a journey. When we want to come to the board, we must ensure each and everyone must comply with what is required as pertains organic farming and its principles. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Asante sana. Nicholas, you also, towards the end of your earlier submission, you talked about sourcing some of your produce from Iringa. So just give us experience of cross-border trade. Are you only trading with Tanzania or other countries? So just share with us your experiences, what works, what could have been done differently.
Okay. So if you permit me for half a minute, that's to strengthen the answer to the academic question. So the secret of getting the small-scale farmer is in two things. One, the global gap has been demystified. In the beginning, it was a big thing, expensive, and the Europeans were insisting on certain type of structures like cement, buildings, and flashy floors. Right now, you can have 4 posts with a nylon paper around it, and that's a bathroom. And you qualify that your sprayers have a bathroom to use after that. So that has been mystified, is made simple now. There are now simple, locally sourced solutions to complying to what used to be sophisticated standards. That's one. Secondly, small-scale farmers can be certified by coming together. So they don't have to be individual farms. They can now be grouped under a provision within Global Gap called Option 2. So you certify them as a group. They can therefore share whatever small cost that is there, and they are certified. So those are the 2 secrets of taking on this giant called global. So that's the side. Let me now come to your. Was that practical for academic?
Very practical.
Good. So coming now to sourcing. So how does Trigger Food source? So when we started, we were using agents, or brokers, so to speak, to look for product and bring to us. Then we realized that the brokers were killing the very dream that we were having of delivering affordable product from the farm, giving the farmer the right price, and also selling to the consumer the right price. And so what we did, that we have gone into contract farming, Mr. Moderator. So we have signed long-term contracts with farmers. So like here in Tanzania, we've signed contracts with farmers in Iringa, Makambako, Makete, those areas of potatoes. We also have contracts with farmers in Uganda for watermelon, pineapples, oranges, like that. And we are still going on. We're going to do something in Rwanda very soon for certain products as well. So what we do is that we pay the farmer according to the cost of production. So we go through a process where we determine pata takrimu estimation production cost, then we mark up with 40%. What that does is that it ensures 40%, between 30 and 40%. What that system does is that it ensures that at any one time, the farmer does not make a loss. So we are doing that because we are hoping and believing that eventually, because of the way we are growing, we will influence even policy. I know you come to that, where that policies like in developed countries, you are not allowed to buy from a farmer below a certain price, otherwise the farmer will crash. So we are pioneering this system now in Kenya. So there'll be a time when we will pay you 25 shillings and the market price is 14. We are happy to pay. But for another 7 months, we will pay you the same 25 and the market is 30. So if you balance us, we balance you. At the end of the day, you as a farmer never make a loss, we don't make a loss. And then we create what you call now sustainability.
Thank you very much. That's very specific response. And I think there are lessons to learn. Mr. Undersecretary, there are questions directed to you, but I'll also add one question. And this is a selfish question from a Tanzanian. It is perceived to be difficult to access the South Sudanese market. When people want to export to South Sudan, they are told you cannot access that market directly. You have to go through, I'm mentioning countries, but you have to go through some business people in other countries, you see. So what can we do to get this direct access, which I think is also going to be beneficial to the consumers in South Sudan? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I also wanted to add my support to my colleague academic who asked that question. Half of my life actually I live in Western world, and for the various reasons, people now moving from the processed food to organic. So you go to Australia now, or you go to New Zealand, or you go to any other country, you'll find a lot of people are moving away from this food that is grown in a flashy, glassy facilities to just anything like Africa. So the standards and certification now actually are changing. That's why what they call organic food is super. In terms of when you go to the supermarkets, you'll find what we call it sukuma here, or that grown in outside of those countries goes to one steam to more than $2 because it was grown here in this environment. So the idea of that having certification is not really it just become a thought. So coming to specific questions, I would come back, but I wanted to give my answer to the young lady who asked about youth inclusion. Let me speak to myself and to you as well. Years ago, the policy or policy making decision makers, they were making these policies without youth inclusion. In South Sudan, we have an opportunity because the moment we become an independence, everyone in the world knew their own rights. So young students and youth came up with their own input. So as far as we are concerned, we've got a number of avenues that we have included young people. South Sudan is one of the very few countries that has given up to 20% of participation to youth in all levels of government. So that is a political, it is debatable anyway, but it is their political statement. But not to stop there, we've got a specific funds we call youth funds. And we've got a specific fund we call student support funds. And then there is a tin of funds that is actually my ministry's party to it, we call youth entrepreneurs funding. These are available to youth who have got ideas, wanted to get into the business. And South Sudan is unique in that way. Many of the young people, the country is actually it's young, even by age. It's the average of 30-year-old is the majority of the country. So we do have a lot to give to the youth because the country itself is young. I'll go to the wild fruits, wild products. Yes, it is. For a number of years, South Sudan has been at war with the North, which is a part of, we were part of Sudan, and then with ourselves. For the last 5 years, we've been fighting. But the tropics of South Sudan probably are unique, as I said earlier. There is the ecology of South Sudan is quite unique. There are certain things that we have to dream to grow them, but in South Sudan they grow in the wild, just as in the wild. You can go miles and miles and miles in the forest of fruits that nobody owns them, the wild. So as far as the policy is concerned, yes, the Ministry of Agriculture has come up with support of Japan. We have come up with what we call Comprehensive Agriculture Master Plan. This is also developed out of what we call National Strategic Development projects. So we have up to 2040 to make sure that whatever we have got now, it is coded into our policy. So we do have a very clear path to policy of protecting these wilds. It is wild, it can actually be domesticated while you're still keeping it. There's a lot of it. I was saying just a bit of that. If you go to southern part, which we call the Green Belt, it is predominantly an area of coffee. Coffee grow there wild, with the bigger beans and a smaller one, that which is now being exported to Europe. There's a Swiss company just came specifically to do that. Just from the wild, they have not touched it. They just go and collect the seeds and then they export it to their country. You have asked about the security. Yes, as we all know, South Sudan, for it to become independent, we have to go through a war. Many of our other countries in the region here haven't to go to the war against the colonial powers, but ours was different. After we've got rid of the British, there came another colonialist called North Sudan, which is predominantly Arab people. We have nothing to do with Arab, actually. I'm not against them. But the policies that they have actually implemented during the years, they were actually very oppressive. South Sudan is the only part of Sudan that has got everything in terms of livelihood. So they wanted to dominate that. They even sold some of the lands to the Arabs in the Gulf, which never been to South Sudan. They imposed a lot of, most of the population, they have been deprived from education, health, and development. So that actually caused us a lot of bloodshed. We had to fight to prove to the world that we have got the reason why we should be independent. Likely we got it. And then as you have seen, the fight we had against the North has also developed hatred within ourselves without us knowing it. So immediately after the independence, we plunged ourselves into a war, which lasted for the last 5 years. There was a meaningless war. There was no need for it. It's just power struggle, which always we know these are the byproducts of being under oppression for too long. You don't even know your rights. You don't have to fight. You don't have to hold a gun to be listened to or to have your rights. But thank God, with the help of the region, including Tanzania, the CCM here, helped us to secure peace. So in 2018, we signed peace. It was a little bit shaky. We went further to listen to our colleagues in the other parties, and we actually got with we had to go as a government to accept some of the demands, including to have 5 vice presidents. It's never happened in the world. 5 of them. But we have accommodated for the sake of peace. So for now, I can assure the brother who asked, South Sudan has peace, and one thing that we made it clear is to make sure that youth are not involved in this. That's why we have got a very elaborate programs and policies that to keep the youth not following the politicians. The final thing that I wanted to add is about it's not a big deal actually. The market, as I said earlier, market is open and we are connected to so many countries. But there is a myth that there is another element in between that takes you to the market of South Sudan. That is not there. The South Sudan is open to all the region and to regional bloc. And let me say this, if you travel to South Sudan, you don't need visa. People, you don't know that. Tanzania and South Sudan, we have waived the visas requirement. So you travel today, you are there in Juba, you just get visa when you are entering the country. There are some moves that I had when I was coming here. They wanted even to invite Air Tanzania to fly from Dar es Salaam or from Kilimanjaro, wherever it is, direct to Juba. Those are underway. So, Mr. Moderator, all your fears, they have no base. You're most welcome to come to South Sudan. The market is open. I happen to have taken, this is small. Last year from Arusha, we took cement, trucks of cement from Arusha all the way to South Sudan to a place called Wow, which is the northern part. And there was nothing in between stop. So this is really good. The other thing was also, is we in South Sudan and Tanzania, we've got a lot of ties. And the reason why I accepted this invitation, for some reason, is that I realized that one of my cousin works for this organization called Taha. It's Asia Y. Barnabas. Asia is my cousin, my blood cousin.
There are issues of
So Tanzanian, you are not strangers to South Sudan. Please come.
Your colleague is in trouble. Issues of citizenship in 1 minute.
Yeah, I can see our timekeeper.
Moderator.
Yeah.
Just in 1 minute, anything you might wish to say. Exactly 1 minute.
I just wanted to mention a few things maybe we are not being told. This is agri-business. Agri-business, I'm an accountant, I'm a forensic accountant. It's business. So when people are asking, how do you make it? Still have to do a business plan, whether you like it or not.
We don't like it.
Then there's a lady who asked about the different lines you can have. We are going to precision farming. We are going to mechanization. In Rwanda, we have a zip line being used to spray. So there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to farming. So I think they need to look at that. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my panelists. I know you are eager and some people are very passionate to want to go on and on, but time is not our friend. Apologies to the moderator. We have taken a longer than expected. Thank you for your attention and for your active participation. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, John, for moderating a really great panel. Please, a round of applause to John and the panelists. We've heard how the practitioners do their things and, of course, how the government is also supporting. So really thank you.
This opportunity to introduce to you our Attorney General. Kwa wale wenzangu kwamba nichukue nafasi hii kuwatambulisha kwenu mwanasheria mkuu wa serikali. Is called Honorable Professor Adelatus Kiraki. Karibu sana, just 2 minutes. 2 minutes, of course, to say hi to your fellow horticulture stakeholders. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa. Dakika mbili. Hapo hapo.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Agriculture. I think I'll just stand where I am. I've been introduced. My name's Adeladus Kilangi, but I did not come here, excuse me, my voice, in my official capacity as the Attorney General of the United Republic of Tanzania, but rather as a stakeholder in the horticultural business. I am a farmer myself. I think I have gathered a lot in the discussions going on in this room. Otherwise, I wish everybody success and the best of what we could gather out of this room. But one caution, we are told in Africa we speak a lot and we don't take our discussions into action. I hope we'll carry all what we'll discuss today into action. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Attorney General. We're really honored that you've joined us, and we are happy that you are into practice. You don't talk, eh? You're also a farmer. So karibu sana mkulima mwenzetu. Next up, we have Jeffrey Kirenga, the CEO of Sakot, as our moderator. And as I introduced the session earlier, this particular session will mainly focus on issues around enabling environment, in facilitating horticulture trade, in EAC and SADC, and in particular they'll pay attention to policy, logistics and transportation, looking into cold chain management systems. I'd like to call the panelists. Karibuni sana. We have a representation from TPA, a representative from Taha. Amani, you're here? Okay. And then we also have
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Blandina. My name is Geoffrey Kirenga, and I will be moderating this panel. I come from the agricultural sector that I've worked for many, many years in the Ministry of Agriculture before joining an institution that is promoting investment in the southern corridor of Tanzania, named as Sakot. Sakot stands for the Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania. Is an area whereby about 60 to 65% of the food we consume in Tanzania is originating from. But also that area cuts across the southern regions all the way to Dar es Salaam. Is an area that is actually representing many aspects of what you find in African agriculture. From the port of Dar es Salaam all the way to the border of Zambia, you have the railway, you have the roads, but also you have a spectrum of climatical conditions and soil conditions, representing from temperate climates in the southern to the typical tropical climates in the coast. What makes this corridor function is actually the infrastructure that has been put by the government, the railway, the road, the irrigation systems, and as well as most of the electricity in Tanzania is generated in that region. Therefore, there is very unique environment in that particular area. But The same can be said for Tanzania. Tanzania, actually, we are uniquely placed. As far as many other countries in the continent, we are in the eastern part of the continent, almost at the center, whereby you can easily go to any other countries in Africa, in the eastern region, in the central region, as well as in the southern part of the continent. It is almost like a gateway to get into Africa. That means we are strategically placed, and infrastructure, policy environment, and many other things which should enable business to function will depend on how Tanzania operates. Now, our panel here is supposed to discuss enabling environment in facilitating horticultural trade in East Africa and the SADC. You remember, recently during the SADC meeting here, we prayed ourselves to be the gateway into getting into SADC and facilitating businesses. And I have a beautiful panel here, which I would like to ask themselves to introduce. And we're going to have a very good discussion about issues of enabling environment to facilitate horticultural trade. You're welcome. Let's start with Amani here. Just introduce yourself, and then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. My name is Amani Tem. I am the General Manager of Taha Fresh Handling Limited. Taha Fresh, just in brief, is a subsidiary of Taha, which was formed to handle goods from Tanzania to international markets, be it regional or European or Asian markets. We have been there for the past 12 years, so we have a little bit of experience in this game. We have encountered a number of challenges, and now here we are. Some of you may have known us as a company that made Tanzanian cargo move when the rest of the world was locked down. Yeah.
Check. 1, 2. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rodney Muriuki. Much better. My name is Rodney Muriuki. I'm a trained engineer by profession, and I work with Inspira Farms. Inspira Farms designs, manufactures, and supplies cold storage, food processing packhouses, facilities, ripening chambers for agribusinesses. We work within Africa, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, West Africa, India, and Latin America. And we supply, certified, and do finance all these facilities. I have worked for close to a decade within Europe and in Africa in the food business, as well as with my training. And I'm really looking forward to Geoffrey's session, and thank you, Taha and Dr. Jacqueline. Regards from our CEO for extending this invitation to us. Thank you.
My name is, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Engineer Tony Swai. I was born and raised in transport sector. So I'm actually, I'm the chairman also of our Skills and Development Council within the cluster of logistics. As Mr. Kirenga pointed out, I think it will be a very good discussion about the logistics cluster.
Thank you, panelists, for that very good discussion. You have actually raised a lot of expectation from our side. Let me start by directing a question to Mr. Temu. We know that you are part of the Taha Group, your company, and you're providing very important services of making sure that whatever that is produced by the farmers reaches the market. Maybe you tell us something about how did you start, how are you doing it, and what is it that can be done to increase efficiency in logistics and therefore connect the Tanzanian farmers and producers more efficiently to the market. Tell us more about what is Taha Fresh first, as part of the Taha Group.
Thank you, Mr. Kirenga. As I said earlier, Taha Fresh is a subsidiary of Taha, which was formed to address the logistics challenge. In the past, we used to rely on the neighboring airports, ports in transportation of our produce to international markets. Therefore, Taha and members saw that it is important that we have our own company, first to break down cartels and monopolies in the transportation sector of horticultural produce, but secondly, to address this challenge, to have a permanent solution that is going to address the logistics challenge for good. And that's how Taha Fresh was formed. And when we were formed in 2008, we started as an air freight logistics company. And we were handling only air freighted goods from Tanzania to international markets. But we kept growing and introduced more services as demand rised. So we introduced sea freight. And sea freight because most of you knows that some of these high volume commodities, especially fruits, move by sea. Therefore, we saw the opportunity in that. Therefore, we introduced the sea freight service. And therefore, now we are moving goods from Tanzania to international markets. In terms of sea freight, I think we are handling almost 90% of containers that are moving from Tanzania to international markets. And then we moved to trucking business, especially refrigerated trucks, simply because we wanted to maintain that cold chain, as the earlier panelist said. If you break the cold chain, then you've tampered with quality. And therefore introduced refrigerated trucking services to ferry goods from Tanzania to regional and international markets. Therefore, we collect from pack houses of our customers. We take the goods to either airport, to port, or even to regional markets. And the last service that we have is the customs clearance. As you know, goods cannot move out of the country without customs declaration. That is one of the services that we provide, and it links the exporter and the government office, the TRA, in terms of declaring what we are exporting outside the country. Coming back to the question, what can we do to increase efficiency and also to improve connectivity to international markets, regional and international markets? I would talk about, I've broken my presentation in 3 parts. One will touch on road transportation, another one on air, and another one on sea. Regional markets and international markets are very important in this business. And logistics is the backbone of it. And if you look at the current situation, of course we've improved a lot. There's a lot of investment that the government has done, especially on road infrastructure, the connectivities within the country and into the region. Trademark has made a lot of investment in terms of border crossing. We have this one-stop border post, which has really reduced the cross-border challenges. We used to cross the border for 7 hours. Now it has gone down to 45 minutes. And sometimes if there's no traffic, we've gone as low as 30 minutes. So this is a major improvement. However, we have a number of challenges that if we work on them, I think we'll be more efficient, we'll reduce costs, and our farmers will profit more. Because with these challenges, then transporters are imposing the cost on the produce, and therefore this cost is either transferred to the consumer or to the producer. I'll give you an example. If you're moving goods by road, say from Beira to Dar es Salaam, coming to Dar es Salaam port, as a transporter will have to go through 7-way bridges. 7-way bridges if I'm moving from Tukuyu to Dar es Salaam port. And say on average time, I'll spend 20 minutes per way bridge. And then we have about 15 permanent traffic stoppage. These are stoppages that police officers are stopping us for truck inspection. So these are permanent stoppages that our trucks must stop. And then we have 60 temporary traffic stoppage. 60 means, the torches. So the traffic could be stationed here, the next day station into another post, you know, just for, you know, Tochi and all these things. So we have 60 stops. So I'm not saying the total is 75. The 15 are within the 60. So we have 45 temporary traffic stoppage. In each of these stoppage, we spend at least 5 minutes. Sometimes we spend more minutes because some of you may have experienced on the road, you will find that when the police are stopping trucks, they'll stop petroleum trucks, fuel trucks, they'll stop copper trucks and horticulture trucks. They'll be within that long queue. So each truck will be inspected one by one. So if we're caught in such a scenario, it means we'll spend more than 5 minutes. It will be 20, it will be 25 or 30 minutes. So in that case, if you go through such stoppage, it adds time, the transit time for trucks. It delays the good to the port or to the market, but it also adds cost to the exporter and as well as the consumer, because all these costs of delays, we will not switch off the generator because this is a perishable, so fuel will be going on to be consumed. So all these costs will be translated either into the farmer or into the exporter. So sometimes you find Mr. Kusaya is asking the exporter, why are you buying at a very low price? So some of these costs are the ones that are making exporters translate them either to farmers, and this is where you'll find avocado prices 1,200 to 1,500 or 700, and some of the costs will be translated to the market. This is one of the scenarios. Do you allow me to say more? All right, 1 minute. I'll give you another example by road. We were working on a shipment from Mbeya to Cape Town. This is a regional trade. If we come from Mbeya to Cape Town by road, it will take between 9 to 12 days because of, you know, border crossing. Out of this, between 9 and 12 days, half, say 5 to 6 days, will be spent on border crossing. Say the border from Mbeya to Zambia, the Tunduma border, you'll cross fast. But then when you start crossing from Zambia to Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe to South Africa, you'll spend a lot of days there. So that translates to a cost of $12,800 per 40 feet reefer truck. And then at the same time, if you take the same shipment by road from Mbeya to Dar es Salaam port, to Cape Town port, it will cost about $6,800. $5,000 is not added just because of the distance. It is also added because the trucks will be stopped at these borders. And when they're stopped at the borders, generators for cooling the produce will not be switched off. If they won't be switched off, this means it is a cost of fuel. But also the drivers will need to eat, to sleep, and all these other overheads. So you have $5,000 in terms of heavy costs. From that, if you use road, which is shorter compared to sea freight. Sea freight will take you about 18 days. Road trip will take you about 9 days, half of that. If the price is good today in South Africa, and you spend 9 more days by sea, because when we come from Dar es Salaam, it will go to Salala, and then it will go to Cape Town. So it will go up north for transshipment, and then back to Cape Town. That's why it costs, it takes 18 days. So if you spend 9 more days, it means you won't find the same price in the market, you won't find the same demand in the market. So some of these challenges are local, which I would say operational, but some of these challenges are regional, which I think we need to address them at the regional level. Yeah.
Thank you, Amani. Now you understand why I picked Amani to be the first speaker. Because actually, this is the place where you go and you find most of the challenges facing the horticultural industry as far as logistics are concerned have been well documented. I can say from your presentation here, we have picked a lot of issues that the committees and the teams that the Prime Minister has directed us to document will catch get those issues, and then we'll have to start thinking about how to look for solutions. Now, it is Rodney Muriuki. I look at you in our team and you're the youngest. I've been told many times that if you want to see the future, you go to the young ones. And you carrying the burden of determining how the future of logistics as far as horticulture is concerned in our region. I'm glad that you have had an international experience. My brother here from Taha has spoken about issues of delays in the border, along the roads, the stopping points, the inspections, the cost of running the cooling facilities, the cold rooms. I see that you have an experience in that particular area. In this kind of situation, what is your advice so that we can actually overcome these pragmatic issues? What, as a young man, because we are preparing the future, plan 2060, 2030, that many of us will not be there, but it is the future that actually we are creating today. What advice do you give us?
Thank you, Geoffrey. It's a very interesting question. I have come across different challenges in different markets. But there are few items which are similar, especially when it comes to cold chain, because what we sell as agribusinesses is weight, and that weight is water. So in essential terms, we sell water to people. But this water has to be maintained. And once it's maintained, it means we have shelf life. And shelf life is equal to monetary value. The more good looking the produce is, the more good looking an apple or an avocado or a citrus fruit is, the better the returns. Now, you've asked my advice. I have different thoughts, and I will try to focus them within the East African community and the SADC, according to my experience. First of all, there's no improvement without investment. Second, there needs to be available source of reliable, quality, and affordable technology to be able to maintain the shelf life and the quality of this produce. The third one is for policy, for businesses to thrive. I'll give you one of my examples. Some of my clients from Rwanda are here, and we work through, some of them prefer to work through the Tanzanian border to bring in their shipments. It takes about 12 days, as Amani said. If they're not able to bring in their technology, it would take probably the same amount of days for fresh produce to exit the community through the seaport. That's 12 days. But if there is policy to be able to accommodate or facilitate the export of this produce through these channels through a 4-day period, it would be best. I'll give you one case study of a client we've worked with in Mozambique for farming of lychees. So we did an operational change from air freight to sea freight out to the UK. And what this did is to decrease their costs, their logistical costs by about 27%. For those of you exporters who know the differences between the sea freight and air freight costs, you might know how important this is. And we did it through first mile cooling. So cold chain management right from the farm. For every berry or for every fruit, every hour that is not spent in the cold room or cold chain facility, a whole day of shelf life is lost for every hour. Okay? And if a day of shelf life is lost, that's money lost. And as Amani said, it's up to the farmer. So the advice I would do, first for policy, please create enabling policies that have the business people who provide these opportunities for our African farmers, right from the big SME or commercial farmers to the smallholder farmer, so that they can be able to access these technologies. Number two, have them access the finance. We provide finance, collateral-free or security-free. And I heard in the speech earlier in the morning that this has been done by Tanzania at the moment. I would like to applaud you for this, for reducing the interest rates and alleviating the need for either collateral or securities for especially this very risky business of agribusiness. We do the same as a company. So second is access to capital. Third is access to energy. Amani again said they need to switch off the generators once they get to the border because the trucks are consuming fuel. But if you are able to integrate renewable energy technologies at the farm, for the small-scale farmer to be able to access a cooling solution, for the medium-scale farmer to reduce their overheads or operational costs, so that their monthly bills may not be as high as $2,000. Some of our clients come to us with bills of about $20,000 per month just on energy. If we can reduce that just to a half, $10,000 a year is equal to a significant contribution to a technological investment, it be cold chain trucks, increase of processing capacity or space. So the third one is access to renewable energy technologies. The technology we provide is solar ready, and so some of the clients who choose to integrate these renewable energy technologies pay back the investment between 5 to 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us that advice. The age has come whereby the old are now being advised by the young. And I look at you, Mr. Swai. You are the most experienced member of the panel here. But before I come to you, on which I will be asking you, based on your experience, and looking at Tanzania, and also I know you've been listening to him very carefully about the issues that he has outlined, especially the stoppages on the road, the issues of consuming extra energy because of those stoppages, which reduces efficiencies. We'll be asking you about how can we overcome that. But there is one thing which I would not wish to let it go without having a proper record. The inefficiencies in the logistics, apart from being a cost in terms of dollars to the handling companies, but is also a cost to the farmer. But there is also an additional cost to this. Africa is growing. We're going to be around 2 billion people very soon. And the environmental costs of these inefficiencies, not only for Africa, but at global level, maybe as we now start to structure our businesses, we have to put that into our equations. So when we make those policies and also the issues which causes inefficiency in the road, we should also look at what is the environmental cost and the footprint that is causing in such kind of implementation of those policies. Now, Mr. Swai, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirenga. It's true, I'm one of the very experienced personnel within logistics. In regards to all this, as my colleague pointed out, the way they stop the vehicles on the way from the regions, Mbeya, Arusha, and all over the place, I think we had a study with the Central Corridor, and we came up with a conclusion that we need to sit and give them the kind of a cause to public institutions like the police, which when I'm pointing out the police, I mean the traffic, the immigration officers, and other related government organizations, so that they could be aware of an export. What is an export? Because some of them, they don't understand. I've heard in the morning someone telling me that they stopped a truck. They're stopping a truck from one of the farmers in Iringa to Dar es Salaam, and they're opening the container. I find it very ridiculous. Why would the traffic stop vegetable truck, and taking into consideration that the container is a refrigerated container, reefer container, and you need to, if you open it up, you need to set it up again, because all those measurements, centigrades, they disappear once you open the back door. I think there should be kind of a cause or to all this public and private sector, that we select a few organs and we sit with them and explain to them what does it mean for sending these export containers. Now coming to my colleague, that yes, there are challenges. I agree with him. The first main challenge we have, let us not hide it. If you want to export a fresh produce, you need a reefer container. And to get a reefer container is another Cambridge examination. Number one, the shipping lines are demanding a cash deposit of $10,000. Just look at these people the way they are. I'm honest to you. They're demanding $10,000 in order for them, for a shipping line to give you a reefer container. Where would this small farmer get $10,000? Number two, if you get the reefer container today, Bwana Mauli, you get a reefer container today, you need someone who is technical, he has a technical education about maintaining the container. I'm a mechanical engineer, cannot maintain that container. This guy has to be raised and sit there for 5 years in order to maintain that container. Because if you take a container from Mbeya, the road is not the same. Sometimes you find some bumpy areas. Once you find the bump, that thing which rotates at the back of the container, it shows you the graph. It shakes. Once it shakes, you have to stop the vehicle and set it up again. So this is one of the challenges. We don't have technical staff to maintain those containers. And I've seen some local methods once I'm traveling around the country. They are putting a generator behind the container, a small generator. And I said, it's a new innovation, you know, the young people, that's what they do. Another challenge which we have also is, now we are within the Dar es Salaam port. Dr. Chamrio is my lecturer and he's my principal secretary and my boss. Now we are doing the rehabilitation and expansion. Rehabilitation and expansion. Sometimes there is a go slow. Now you imagine a truck of reefer container sits in a traffic jam for 16 hours. And that's why we are insisting, and we are still discussing with TPA to have a green line. So that once the container arrives within Dar es Salaam port, it goes in direct to the place where they offload and put it and connect it to electricity. And this requires either you have a documentation done, as he pointed out, the second phase of the export, you are required to have a custom documentation. It's either you have or you don't have. The container has to go inside, being offloaded, then you start chasing for your papers. Thank you to Dr. Chamrio. He has been the chairman of this, establishing one single territory, that all the government organs, they're all in the same place within the software, so that everybody can see, so that you can save time. Yes, it's working, and it has started. I think, yes. It has started, I think, 2 days ago. There are 150 companies, clearing and forwarding companies, which have been, as a pilot project, they're working on it. Of course, there'll be some challenges with the new software. Asante Bwana Kirenga.
Thank you, Swai. And listening to you and also listening to my brother here, Amani, it might look like we do have unsurmountable challenges in logistics. But as a matter of fact, you told us you are one of the biggest exporters. Therefore, there must be something that is working, isn't it? Because we are exporting. But we would like to build on those experiences and the successes that you have already been able to put in place. And one of the things which I would like to bring in as a success story is actually the work that the government has done in building the infrastructure, not only the main roads, but also some of the feeder roads that goes to the districts. It is the last mile that takes the produce of the farmer from the farm to the feeder roads are the ones which we really need to look at very closely. But luckily, there's also a specific institution that has been put in place by the government known as Tarura. Okay? Tarura is actually designed and mandated to look on those rural roads. What is required now is for us in the agricultural sector to make sure that Tarura is properly informed to service those areas where perishable produce are being produced. Okay? To me, the efficiency of that particular area is actually the starting point of that green route. If you have a green route at the port, an honorable permanent secretary from a responsible ministry, that is the tail end of a very long process. It is beautiful to have that green route at the port. But listening to my brothers here, Swai and Temu, and also our young man here, probably we need a green card. That a container containing a perishable product will be able to waive and therefore be fast-tracked in all those barriers, because you understand what kind of challenges that you are facing. I'm putting this forward as a suggestion, but I know we'll be having, I'm looking at Jacqueline here, and also the team, Professor Nyange, in our policy group. These are some of the issues which we need to look at in our future discussion. Green route at the port, yes, but there are many challenges along the road. These are not impossible challenges if we plan properly. I'm just suggesting here, off the cuff, the green card for those containers, and train those officers to differentiate between the vehicles waving the green card vis-a-vis those ones who do not, like those ones carrying copper, minerals, and other things. Now, Amani, I was actually looking.
pay $1.7 per kilo. So there's a difference of $0.1 per kg. But if you look at the distance, it doesn't justify. So we have to look at the concessions. I think one of the challenges that we're facing in most African airports is I think there are so many charges that the airlines are bearing, which are translated to the exporters. And therefore they make it very difficult for us to air freight products within the region. You see, so concessions, cargo concessions in these African airports are still very expensive. And therefore, when the airline is charged expensive, it translates that cost to the cargo owner. And therefore, we end up paying very expensive. So I think one of the challenges that our national airline will encounter is that some of these concessions, as Africans, I think we need to discuss them at regional levels and allow ourselves that cargo should be moving within the region as a local group. This will make us operate at a very, very competitive price, because investing in road transportation around the region, the connectivities between countries is very expensive. And we have already the airlines that are moving around the regions. So if we are to make our goods move fast within the regions, we have to look at concessions. How do we make them competitive so that the air freight, the cost of air freight per kg becomes very low, and therefore the farmer will enjoy transporting by air, reaching these markets as our government continues to improve the road infrastructure. And then one thing maybe I want to assure our peers that is we have a lot of challenges, yes, but we're still using our local airports, our local ports. This year, for instance, we have moved from 60% export from our local airports to 95%. You know all the challenges that we encountered during COVID-19, and therefore we learned our lessons. And therefore now we are using our local airports. It's not bad to use regional airports, but we are safer when we are at home. Secondly, the port of Dar es Salaam was a nightmare. It was impossible. For the past 5 years, we were not able to export a single container. But this year, we've exported a number of containers from the port of Dar es Salaam, thanks to the improvement of the government. I remember Mr. Kusaya and Honorable Bashe were on top of this agenda, pushing the port, making sure that this year we must export from the port. So it is not that the government has put new infrastructure in the port. That's why we are able to really export from the port. But it is about the mindset. It is about the systems. It is about bringing people together to own the process. Yes, there are a number of challenges still existing, but we are saying the first success is to have the first 14 containers moving out of our port this year and reaching the market in good quality.
Thank you so much, Mr. Temu, for sharing those insights. And I can see fingers itching to ask questions to the panel. And I look at the time that has been allocated to us. We have about 15 minutes before we close. We had 1 hour allocated to us. Maybe I would welcome a round of questions, maybe three questions, and then we will see what we can do if time allows. Let me start with that gentleman over there. I saw you raising hands before I even started speaking, and then the next will be the lady over here, and then Yes, the young lady over there. Esther, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Nelson Suya from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Just a quick one. I think there are 2 points I want to add to the discussion. I don't want to put a question at this time. I know the panelists are a bit, the long day. Mine is around technology. I think there's a lot of discussion around technology on the logistics side of things. But I'm looking at technology from really information sharing. Since morning, I hear a lot of opportunity, availability of products in one market or the other. There are a lot of regulation in one country or the other. I think not all of us were aware what is happening in our region. And I think it's very important for an institution like Taha to lead in terms of information gathering and information sharing. That will be really very powerful. And I think with the technology which we have now, is quite easy to gather all that information. So I'm strongly recommending one of the action points from here is really to have a situation where anyone from South Sudan to Malawi can access information easily. If I want to do a particular business in Tanzania, what are the regulations? What are the policies? What are the enabling environments? etc. So that is very important. That is number one. Number two, also technology can be looked from the point of, assume the Africa continent free trade area is ratified, which I'm very sure is going to be ratified very soon. We need to change a lot of policies in the country to align with the spirit of the new trade area. No doubt about that. You can have a situation whereby an exporter can complete a custom declaration form in Dar es Salaam, and that can be accessed to all the border points, all the way to Cape Town. You don't need to have multitude of forms being completed across. So again, that is the power of technology, but assuming our countries will be able to embrace the spirit of the African Continent Free Trade Agreement. So very important. And I think we do have a lot of officials from the government. Once that agreement is ratified, I'm very sure Tanzania will be on board. It was spoken a lot in Mauritius. Then I think a number of our policies can be now aligned to really align to that one. And my last point, really around this conference, which is very important. I think we should really not underestimate the need to allow small farmers to come together. It's very important. You know, we sit here in these big rooms, big conference. Let's come up with the idea where we can put our farmers together. We should not just talk, please. We are seeing a lot of produce when we drive from Mosh to Dar es Salaam during Christmas. These are small farmers. Why are we allowing those kind of horticulture produce to go on west? It's because we have not organized these farmers into small association where they can really access the market. Please, Taha, take this as one of your critical action points. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Msuya. That is powerful. 3 very important points. Taha, we are looking at the future whereby as we drive along the highways, we will not see those tomatoes and onions along the roads. They should be in the market with consumers. It's telling us that information technology, Taha should be the hub of all the information that is needed for somebody to do successful trade in horticultural produce. And that probably will also go to other value chains. And thank you, Mr. Msuya. Now let me invite the lady.
Good afternoon, my name is Josina. So I'm not far away from the last speaker. Actually, my request was to the policymakers. When you're looking at transportation of goods, just don't look at the exports. We face the same challenge trying to move goods from one area here in Tanzania to a hotel. I can give you a simple scenario. For us to transport in a cold refrigerated truck, good horticulture, products from our place where we park to a specific client who's probably, let's say, in Kibiashara. It will take us more than 6-7 hours because of the number of police stops that we have. Only to open the trucks and they see that it's food products. It doesn't stop. You'll be stopped almost 4 to 10 times. So please look at the policies across, not just the exports. So I know he was really focusing on the exports. Let's look at also the Tanzania and how we actually being able to be locating the trucks that are also delivering goods within the country that are carrying products that are food. My other comment was around when do we start to actually do the cold storage? Because here we're looking at packing it and actually transporting it. At the farm level, I think a lot of you are going to Mbeya, Iringa, in Njombe. Currently, as I'm speaking to you, I came from Njombe. You should see the number of tomatoes on the road. There isn't a place for these farmers to keep their products. And because the price of tomato right now is really low, they are throwing it on the road. They're leaving it on the farm for people to pick up for free. So please, let's intervene at the Tanzanian level. So I'm just adding to what he was saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Josina. That's powerful, and that's why the issue of organizing smallholder farmers so that they can be efficiently facilitated and enabled to access the market is very, very important. There was a hand there. Yes. Shout. Whenever I see a young person holding a mic, I become very, very excited. Go on, my sister. Is it not working? Can you try the other one? Yes, please. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Carol Taira, and I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Horticulture from Sokoine University of Agriculture. Well, I would like to comment on, because I've heard concerning the challenges that the road transport, also the sea transport, is the one that seems to have so many challenges while exporting the horticultural produces. So I'd like to advise that perhaps maybe there should be more emphasis on the farmers to use the air transport when they're exporting their horticultural produces, because at least that way the produces won't be damaged early. And also I'd like to advise the government that they should put more incentives for maybe for the cost that will be translated to the farmers. Those costs, maybe they can be handed over by the government, because the government is gaining from these farmers when they're exporting their produces, and then they can increase their national income. Thank you.
Thank you, Tairo. That's very important advice. I think it's captured. Now, I'll go back to my panel. But before I go back to you, I would like to repeat certain issues just for a matter of emphasis. The issues of efficiency in the existing infrastructure, based on the existing mindset
soon. Sasa Katibu Mkuu, tunakuomba tu baba, tusaidie, na hasa hawa vijana wao, kwa sababu wana huka ya kutaka hela haraka haraka. Kwa hiyo wako tayari kuchukua makemikali na kufanya hivyo wanavyofanya. Kwa hiyo ni ombi langu au wazo. Asante.
Asante sana mama, wazo zuri sana. Kwa hiyo tumerudi tena kwenye point ya soil health, lakini mwanzoni nilisema sikusikia masuala ya trust. Naona mama unayarudisha tena, lakini kikubwa zaidi usalama. Inaonekana kama tukisema export kama tunajali usalama, ila tukijiongelea sisi wenyewe tunapita pita nafikiri hilo ni angalizo zuri sana mama. Tunashukuru sana, hiyo tunaiongeza. Basi naomba niende kwenye meza ya rapporteurs. Karibu.
Habari za jioni. Hongereni sana kwa mkutano mzuri na poleni. Mimi naitwa Ndewa Mungure, ni research officer kutoka Taha na ni rapporteur pia kwenye kikao hichi. One of the issues ambayo iligusiwa na tujaiongelea sana ni uwezo wa soko la SADC na EAC. Kwa mfano kwenye panel ya kwanza yule bwana wa Kongo alisema Congo DRC ina population ya 30% of the SADC region. So let's look at the market. Na hata nikiangalia kwa statistics, we have been exporting so much processed fruits in terms of fruit juice to DR Congo, about $72 million for the past 2-3-4 years. So it's a very huge potential. Alafu kuna kingine cha access to finance. Sana sana kwenye access to finance hapa ni ku reinvent the products au ku modify the products. Iliongelewa issues kwamba CRDB hapa wamepunguza interest, lakini pia wanatengeneza products au services za loans ambazo zinaendana na mahitaji ya wakulima. Lakini kuna bwana mmoja pia I think it's from Kenya, he spoke about kukopeshwa instantly using the digital services, kwamba retailer anakuwa ananunua mzigo and then anaweza kanunua through M-Pesa au mobile money or through credit, na ile credit akinunua kwenye credit ile system inakuwa na muassess in maybe 0 or 1 second, inaangalia credibility yake, inaangalia fae kama anapewa mkopo ama la. So I think looking at new financial products could be solving some challenges to farmers. Lakini issue nyingine Mheshimiwa Welvej aliongelea quality seeds, kwa sababu it all starts with the seed, na tuna changamoto sana ya quality seeds, hasa ukiangalia kwenye Irish potatoes na value chain ya namna hiyo, ambapo pia ni nzuri sana. Kenyans are buying a lot of Irish potatoes, you know, so we have to improve the quality of the seeds. Lakini kingine Waziri Mkuu alituahidi kwamba issue ya VAT refund ambayo imekuwa ni changamoto kwa miaka mingi sana itashughulikiwa. Kwa hiyo tuandae list ya wale farmers, alafu wawe vetted kama wanatakiwa kuwa eligible kuwa refunded. Sio farmers, tunafikiri players wote kwenye horticulture industry. So I just wanted to stress on that. Thank you.
Asante sana, asante sana. Tulikuwa na wanaotusaidia watatu kwa ajili ya rapporteuring, na tukimaliza basi hii ripoti itatumwa kwenu wote. Kwa hiyo tafadhali, kama hujajisajili, if you've not registered yourself, kindly do so, because we will share the report. Lakini vile vile kama kuna picha and things like that, all of those will be shared only to the people who have registered. So you do have an interest to make sure you've registered yourself, and of course otherwise you did not attend this meeting, Taha will claim you're not here. So please do register if you've not done so. Now to wind it up, I am having a representative from the government. That's going to be the permanent secretary. Yes. Minister of Livestock, yes, and Fisheries. Transport. Nimeharibu, sorry. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa Katibu Mkuu. Where did I get that one from? I thought I did well till there, sorry.
Habari za jioni. Mwanasheria mkuu wa serikali ambaye leo umetamka kwamba umekuja hapa kama mkulima, ndugu katibu wakuu mliopo, waheshimiwa wabunge, waheshimiwa mabalozi na wawakilishi wa mabalozi na viongozi wa taasisi za kimataifa, ndugu wawakilishi wa wizara na taasisi nyingine za serikali, Mhandisi Zebedaya Moshi, mwenyekiti wa Taha, Dr. Jacqueline Mkindi, afisa mtendaji mkuu wa Taha, wawakilishi kutoka Jumuiya ya SADC na Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki, ndugu waalikwa, ndugu waandishi wa habari, mabibi na mabwana, tena habari za jioni. Nichukue fursa hii kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kutuwezesha kukutana hapa jioni hii ya leo katika hali hii ambayo wengine wanaiogopa, lakini vile vile nichukue fursa hii kuwashukuru waandaaji wa kongamano hili kwa kunialika na kunipa jukumu la kulifunga rasmi. Nimefuatilia tangu mwanzo hadi sasa tunapoelekea ukingoni, na nimeona wadau wakishiriki kwa hamasa kubwa na bila kuchoka. Ni kongamano la kukumbukwa. Asanteni sana. Ndugu washiriki, naambiwa na waratibu wa kongamano hili kuwa kwenye ukumbi huu tuna washiriki takriban 400 na wengine wamefuatilia kupitia njia mbalimbali za kidijitali. Tafsiri ya mwitikio huu mkubwa ni kwamba wananchi wana mwamko mkubwa wa kutaka kuelewa tasnia hii ya mazao ya bustani kwa undani na kupata taarifa kuhusu fursa zilizopo ili nao waweze kushiriki kamilifu kwenye shughuli za mnyororo wa thamani wa mazao ya bustani. Sina shaka kuwa yale yaliyojadiliwa, yale tuliyokubaliana na yale tuliyojifunza yatafanyiwa kazi na taasisi zetu, na sisi pia tunaahidi kuyashughulikia kama serikali. Niwaombe yale mliojifunza yasiishie hapa, bali mkatangaze hizi fursa kwa wengine ili nao wapate kufaidika nazo. Ndugu washiriki, kwa upande wetu serikali, naahidi kuwa yale ambayo tumeyazungumza tutayafanyia kazi, tena kwa nguvu na msisitizo mkubwa. Sitarudia kila jambo, lakini niwahakikishie kuwa tumejipanga kutatua migogoro na changamoto mbalimbali kwa ajili ya kuweka mazingira bora ya biashara na uwekezaji. Masuala yanayohusu sekta ya uchukuzi, ambayo ni sekta inayonihusu moja kwa moja, ninayoisimamia, ninahakikishia nitaisimamia na matokeo mtayaona kwa haraka. Kuhusu vikwazo ambavyo sio vya kibiashara, sio vya kikodi, ambavyo vinaitwa non-tariff barriers, tumezisikia na tutaendelea kuzifanyia kazi kwa sababu vinakwenda katika sekta mbalimbali. Zingine zinahusu mambo ya ndani, zingine zinatuhusu uchukuzi na kadhalika, lakini tutazifanyia kazi. Lakini na sisi vile vile tutende wajibu wetu. Katika sekta ya uchukuzi au usafiri kuna changamoto nyingi ambazo mmeona wenyewe. Katika mwezi huu uliopita kumekuwa na ukamataji mkubwa wa wahamiaji haramu ambao wote wamekutwa ndani ya malori ya usafiri kuanzia Dar es Salaam hadi Mwanza. Kwa hiyo utaona hapo kwa nini hawa wenzetu walio barabarani, kwa nini nao wanakuwa makini katika kusimamisha hayo magari, kwa sababu katika hiyo simamisha, kwa mwezi mmoja tu uliopita wamekamata zaidi ya wahamiaji haramu 200. Kwa hiyo tuwe makini pande zote ili tuweze kuboresha huduma zetu na tupate huduma nzuri zaidi. Tayari vile vile tumefanya maboresho mengine. Kwa mfano, kwenye chumba cha kuhifadhi mizigo baridi katika uwanja wa ndege wa Mwanza, tulisikia malalamiko ya sekta binafsi na tayari tumeyafanyia mabadiliko ili kuongeza ufanisi wake, na maboresho hayo nimeyazindua mwezi Novemba mwaka huu. Ni mwezi jana tu nilikuwa Mwanza kuzindua yale maboresho ya mfumo ule. Napenda kutoa rai kwa wadau wote wa usafirishaji wa bidhaa za mbichi kutumia miundombinu hii, kwani matumizi yake yamekuwa ya chini sana. Nikichukua mfano kidogo, kwa sasa vyumba vya baridi katika uwanja wa ndege wa kimataifa wa Dar es Salaam vina uwezo wa kuhudumia tani takriban 200, lakini kiwango kinachotumika hadi sasa ni chini ya 25%. Wakati katika uwanja wa ndege wa Kilimanjaro uwezo wake ni tani 110 na matumizi yake hadi sasa ni wastani wa tani 15 tu. Katika uwanja wa ndege wa Mwanza, hiyo miundombinu ya vyumba vya baridi, japokuwa viliombwa sana na sekta binafsi, tumekamilisha, tumefanya maboresho, lakini mpaka sasa hivi vinatumika chini ya 5%. Ni nia ya dhati ya serikali kuona wakulima, wafanyabiashara, wasindikaji na watoa huduma kwenye tasnia hii ya mazao ya bustani wakifanya shughuli zao katika mazingira mazuri. Sisi kama serikali, kazi yetu ni kuweka mazingira wezeshi. Tunatambua sana mchango wenu mkubwa kwenye uchumi wa nchi. Ni kupitia uwekezaji na biashara zenu ndio wananchi wengi wanaweza kupata ajira, serikali inaweza kupata mapato kupitia kodi, na nchi inaweza kupata pato la kigeni. Ni maendeleo ya aina hii yanayoleta ustawi wa nchi, na sisi kama serikali tunaendelea kuboresha mifumo ili kutoa ushirikiano katika hili. Katika bandari ya Dar es Salaam ambako ni lango kuu kwa mizigo mingi, na katika biashara ya kiforodha, tumeanzisha huu mfumo wa Tanzania Electronic Single Window System ambao utaondoa changamoto nyingi ambazo mnaziongelea sasa katika ufuatiliaji wa kadhia na bidhaa zenu. Tayari tumekushafanya majaribio ya mfumo huo, na punde sipunde watakuwa wanaongezwa wadau mbalimbali ili tuweze kukamilisha na utumike bila usumbufu wowote. Pia mapendekezo mliotoa ya kuanzisha ukanda wa kijani au green line, nayo tutafanyia kazi ili mazao yanayoharibika yaweze kupewa kipaumbele katika bandari zetu na hata viwanja vya ndege. Ndugu washiriki, kanuni moja ya kuwekeza kwa mafanikio ni kutokuwa na hofu. Anza kuwekeza sasa na kufaidika na fursa zilizopo. Hata wenzangu kwenye utumishi wa umma na waajiriwa wengine, wekezeni. Sisi sote tupo njiani kuelekea kuwa wawekezaji. Ni vema uanze kuwekeza hadi unastaafu. Unapowekeza mapema unapata uzoefu na maarifa ya kufanya biashara sasa, na hata baadaye unapostaafu halitakuwa jambo geni sana. tasnia ya mazao ya bustani kutokana na fursa nyingi zilizopo inatoa wigo mpana wa kujihusisha na biashara kwa namna nyingi sana. Leo tumepata mfano mzuri sana ambapo hata mwanasheria mkuu wetu wa serikali amehudhuria hapa kama mkulima na sio kama mwanasheria mkuu wa serikali. Kwa hiyo tunaona tunaanza kupata mwamko wa kuwekeza tukiwa kazini ili baadaye nasi tuwe wafanyabiashara wazuri. Ndugu washiriki, mwisho wa kongamano hili usiwe mwisho wa makongamano ya aina hii. Tayari Mheshimiwa Waziri Mkuu leo asubuhi katika hotuba yake ya ufunguzi ameelekeza mjipangie ratiba rafiki ya makongamano haya ili yasiachane kwa muda mrefu sana na kushindwa kuainisha na kutatua changamoto zinazoweza kujitokeza kwa wakati. Ni muhimu tuwe na makongamano ya aina hii kwani ni chanzo kikubwa cha maarifa. Makongamano ya aina hii yafanyike si kwa tasnia ya mazao ya bustani tu, bali masuala mengine mbalimbali yanayohusu fursa za kuwekeza na biashara kwa wananchi wetu. Niwaase pia Taha, hii elimu iliyopatikana leo isiishie kwenye ukumbi huu tu, bali isambazwe kwa wadau wengi zaidi hapa nchini iweze kuzaa matunda. Ndugu washiriki, mwisho lakini sio kwa umuhimu, ninawashukuru sana washiriki wote na kurudia ahadi ya serikali kwamba maazimio yote yaliyofikiwa hapa yatafanywa kazi kwa kuzingatia maelekezo aliyotoa Waziri Mkuu katika hotuba yake ya ufunguzi. Kipekee kabisa ni washukuru wageni wetu kwa utayari wao wa kushiriki nasi. Tunawakaribisha tena na tena katika nchi yetu ya Tanzania kuja kushirikiana nasi katika mambo mengine. Na watakieni nyote jioni njema, na kwa wale wanaosafiri msafiri salama. Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza.
Asante sana Katibu Mkuu Uchukuzi Engineer Chamuri. Kabla sijachapia tena. Okay. Tunashukuru sana kwa maneno ya faraja. Tunashukuru sana kwa kuwa nasi toka asubuhi, lakini kama tunavyofahamu umekuwa nasi muda mrefu zaidi ya leo asubuhi. Naomba nitoe shukrani za ujumla, alafu Kelvin nitamkaribisha na tangazo moja atalitoa. Naomba niwashukuru sana 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 wadhamini wetu Fintrack, Mboga na Matunda Project. Naomba kuwashukuru Agra, naomba kushukuru benki za CRDB, benki ya NMB, TADB, PAS, lakini vile vile naomba kuwashukuru A to Z. Naomba niwashukuru wadau wa maendeleo pamoja na balozi. Naomba niwashukuru watoa mada wote na waratibu wa mada hizo leo, lakini vile vile naomba niwashukuru wafanyakazi kutoka serikali kuu, makatibu wakuu ambao mmekuwa nasi, manaibu wa makatibu wakuu, wanaotoka serikali za mitaa, wakurugenzi na wakuu wa taasisi za serikali, lakini vile vile tulikuwa na wakuu wa mikoa na wabunge. Tunawashukuru sana kwa kuweza kuwa nasi siku nzima, lakini vile vile tunaomba niwashukuru viongozi wa mashirika ya kimataifa. Naomba niwapongeze sana wakulima ambao mlikuwa nasi humu ndani leo. Naomba niwapongeze wawekezaji ambao wanawekeza kwenye kilimo. Naomba niwapongeze na kuwashukuru vile vile makampuni na vyama vya wakulima. Naomba niwashukuru vile vile kwa wale wanaotoka kwenye asasi za kiraia, wanaotoka kwenye taasisi za utafiti na taaluma tofauti tofauti. Na mwisho kabisa basi naomba niwashukuru wale wote waliojiunga nasi kupitia kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tulikuwa live toka asubuhi. Asanteni kwa kuwa nasi siku ya leo. Imekuwa siku njema tulipokuwa katika jukwaa la biashara na uwekezaji kwenye tasnia ya mboga, matunda na viungo. Naomba tujipigie makofi mengi sana. Baada ya hilo basi, mimi naitwa Blandina Kilama, lakini naomba nimkaribishe Kelvin, ana jambo ambalo angependa kutukaribisha.
Asante Blandina, habarini za jioni. Pamoja na malengo ya jukwaa hili la leo, kama ambavyo tulikuwa tumeshayaona, lengo mojawapo pia lilikuwa ni kutoa nafasi kwa sisi kama wadau wa kilimo kuweza kupata muda wa kunetwork, kuongea, kubadilishana mawazo, lakini tumesikia fursa mbalimbali za biashara na masoko kutoka kwa wenzetu kutoka nchi za jirani. Kwa hiyo nadhani kwa dakika hizi chache zilizobaki, kwa niaba ya uongozi wa Taha tunapenda kuwakaribisha kwa ajili ya chai ya jioni. Itakuwa saved hapo nje. Tafadhali usiondoke, ni muda wa kuweza kuchukua business card kwa wale ambao uliwaona wanakupa fursa fulani, lakini pia kubadilishana mawazo na kuzungumza mawili matatu kabla ya kutawanyika. Kwa hiyo kwa niaba ya uongozi wa Taha naomba niwakaribishe wote kwa ajili ya chai ya jioni. Karibuni sana.
Asante sana, asante sana. Basi na tukutane jukwaa lijalo. Lini Taha watatuambia. Asanteni sana mabibi na mabwana, karibuni chai na vile vile karibuni networking event now. Thank you so much.